So anyways, let's get started. First off, the sign in. I'll put it one more time in the chat because I know people who join in can't see old things in the chat. So there's a sign in form right there, and instead of using the QR code, I copied and pasted this QR code in, so it might not work too well. Before we get started, cameras are totally optional. I became a pro at talking to a bunch of black boxes during COVID times in 2020, so it doesn't bother me at all. But if you could please stay muted, any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. If there's something kind of individualized, I'll send you a follow-up email or address it after the meeting. But if it's something I think that would be great for everybody in the meeting to know, I'll talk about it. So yeah, throw those questions in the chat. And you can also put questions on that check-in form too. It's kind of like a follow-up as well. All right, so let's get started. So we're going to Costa Rica. This is going to be spring break 2024. I'll talk a little bit about why we're planning it so far ahead. We're going to be visiting a few different regions of Costa Rica. San Jose, Monteverde, the Arenal region, and Sarapiquí. I've been to all these areas of Costa Rica. They're really, really fun. They're really well adjusted for tourism. They have a lot of ecotourism, and we'll get to see a lot of animals. So I'm really excited about that. So here's our agenda and what we're going to try to cover at the meeting today. First off, safety and our EF partnership, travel plans and tour itinerary, what students gain from travel, what's included in the tour and what's not, and price and dates to mark in your calendar. And then finally, submitting any questions. You can use that sign-in form, just have that open and jot down any questions that you might have as we go on. And in a few more minutes, as more people come in, I'll put that sign-in form back into the chat for you. All right, so most of you, or some of you might not know who I am. My name is Matthew O'Hare. I teach 7th grade science and 7th and 8th grade coding at SMS. I've been at SMS since it opened 4 years ago. Before that, I was at Twin Falls Middle School, and before that, I was a geologist. I love teaching. It's really brought me a lot of joy in my life, made me a better person, and I hope to be doing it for the rest of my life in some form or another. I started these student trips back when I was at Twin Falls. I did one tour with Twin Falls, and I've done 2 tours at SMS, all to Costa Rica. We're also going to Dominican Republic this spring break with a little bit of a smaller group. And I kind of felt like I wanted to go back to Costa Rica. It's just such an easy location for our entry-level travel and for new travelers to go to. And it's such a beautiful, amazing country. I'll probably talk so much about Costa Rica, you'll get sick of it. Hopefully not, though, but by the end of this meeting. So first, just a little bit about me. My hobbies include traveling, scuba diving, and golf, and animals, of course. I've been a teacher for, this is my, I think, 7th or 8th year teaching. Like I said, before that, I was a geologist. My wife's a teacher, saw what it did for her and how much she enjoyed it, and decided to make the switch and never really looked back. A few years ago, well, I keep saying a few years ago, probably like 5 or 6 years ago, me and my wife kind of realized like we haven't really gone anywhere, seen the world, and we don't have kids, and we both have the teacher schedule, so we have these breaks. And we just decided, hey, let's start going. And so we each picked a location, and I picked Costa Rica for no real reason at all. Excuse me, sorry. If you don't know, I'm out with COVID right now. I'm quarantining this whole week, and it's kind of got me a little bit. But so I excuse myself if I start coughing a little bit. So anyways, I chose Costa Rica. Really no reason behind it. It just seemed like a cool place to go, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Couldn't have chosen a better first international travel experience outside of Canada and Mexico. And then my wife chose Peru. She wanted to hike the Inca Trail to Peru, which I don't really think she knew exactly what that meant when she said she wanted to do it, but excuse me. But we did it anyways, and it was a whole lot of fun. And we just got bit by the travel bug. And so now pretty much any break, every summer we go on trips around the world. We've gotten to go to 4 different continents since we started. I'm going to a 5th continent this winter break. I'm finally getting to Asia and going to Singapore and Thailand. And it's just opened up my horizon so much, and I really want to share that with our students, because there's just special experiences that you have traveling that you can't really have at home. And really the personal growth that I felt from travel is what I wanted to share the most with students. So I really think it does change you for the better, and really opens up your horizons in ways that just watching TV documentaries doesn't really fully bring it all together. Excuse me, I didn't think this was going to be so tough there, but I'll get through it. All right, so like I said, reasons why I travel: the adventure, the culture, and really animals has been a big reason why we've traveled around the world, and we kind of organize our trips around animals. So we worked at a elephant and rhino sanctuary in Zimbabwe, where I got to hand feed rhinos and play soccer with an elephant, which was really cool. We volunteered at an animal rescue center in Costa Rica that our last trip visited. So that's the picture there with the monkeys there. I got to work with sloths and monkeys all day and just have a couple monkeys on my shoulder walking around, which is a really cool experience. Me and my wife scuba dive a lot. We really like water sports. Said hiking the Inca Trail was an incredible experience. And then, of course, the food. Absolutely just love the food that the world has to offer. It's so delicious and different every place you go. I put up a few of my favorite dishes there, especially the fried red snapper, which is delicious, prawns. And then on the Inca Trail, we had all sorts of interesting meals along the way. Everything had to be packed in and packed out. So it was a little interesting what we had there. Probably heard the stories of guinea pig and those kind of things, but it was all really delicious. So yeah, that's kind of why I travel, to get out and find new experiences. One thing I heard recently that really stuck with me is that when we do repetitive tasks, or we do the same kind of thing over and over again every day, our brain uses the same pathways to log those memories. And essentially what it does is that when you do the same thing over and over again, life seems to go by faster, because your brain is using old memory pathways rather than making new memory pathways. And one way we can get our perception of life to be longer is by having new experiences. And I think that's what travel is all about. If you never really leave our valley and never really leave Washington, on some kind of level, you're having that repetitive action for your brain, and not building those new pathways that really fill up your brain and give you that full life experience, which is what I really want to share with students. All right, so why plan for 2024 travel now? I know this seems like really far off. I got a few emails about asking why we were planning so far ahead. And there's a few really practical reasons. First is it gives something to look forward to, which can be kind of used as both ways. One way as, it's just exciting to have something there in the future, kind of that carrot on the stick that is keeping you going and keeping you motivated, especially through our long winters. Fast forward to next winter and the rain starts and you're like, oh, I only got to make it through a few months until we get to Costa Rica. That's a great carrot to have there. And then also as a motivation for students, having this trip being like, this is a privilege that you get to go on. If you're taking care of your side of things, you're keeping up with your grades, you're keeping up with your activities, all those kind of things can be used. Looking forward to this trip as motivation for students. Also, the last few years have been kind of rough on us, and a chance to reconnect to a world that feels distant and remote right now is a huge thing. Our last year's trip was incredibly popular. A lot of people went on it because we were just so excited to just get out and go. We've all been kind of cooped up for so long now. So I think having that travel and having that in the future really helps get through those more lonely times that we've been feeling. Also, a huge thing is that planning 18 months out or 16 months out, I think it is, it makes the payments a lot easier. And we'll talk about those kind of towards the end of the meeting. But I really, really want to keep the trip as affordable as possible. And we'll talk about how I did that. But by planning this far ahead, we can make the monthly payments down to a couple $100, which is pretty big and manageable. And then also by signing up this early, you can lock in a little risk-free enrollment period, as well as a $200 off discount from the trip if you sign up by the next few days. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. So EF Educational Tours is our travel partner. They also lead trips out of Twin Falls with a few different teachers. Mount Si High School runs trips through EF Tours. Chief Caneham runs trips through EF Tours. A lot of the Issaquah schools do. So they work in our area quite a bit with our local schools to make these trips possible. They've been running trips for 55 years. They have staff on the ground in over 50 countries, including an office in downtown San Jose, Costa Rica, which is kind of rare for a travel company to have people on the ground in all of the locations that we'll be visiting. They're also the world leader in international education. They take more students to more places every year. And because of that, they're able to offer us the most competitive package. And EF Tours is accredited, just like our school. So there's ways using the trip that you can get high school credit or even college credit. I think we're a little bit too young for that for our group, but there are ways to do that if you would like to. I want to start off by talking a little bit about safety before we went on to everything else, because I think safety is at the forefront of our minds when we talk about sending 12 to 14-year-olds to a foreign country, possibly without a parent. So I just want to say that I take safety extremely seriously on our tours, and so does EF. The entire time that we're in Costa Rica, 24/7, we have a tour director with us who's bilingual, lives in the country, is almost always a native Costa Rican, knows everything about the country, helps us plan everything, keeps us safe throughout the whole trip. Also, they have a safety and incident response team. Every student on our tour wears a little bracelet that has a phone number for the EF safety hotline. So they don't even need to speak any Spanish, or if they find somebody that doesn't speak Spanish, they can just hold up their wrist and point to the bracelet and get connected to people that can help. We have a lot of enhanced safety precautions and procedures based off of COVID to keep everybody safe and traveling and healthy while we're going. I also, EF Tours requires that we have one adult for every 6 students on the tour. I think that's even a little bit high. I try to keep it one adult for every 4 students or less on the tour. So there'll always be lots of eyes watching the kids, making sure that nobody gets lost. And EF will also back up all of our safety policies. Because we're a middle school group, it is a little bit different than when you're traveling somewhere with high schoolers, where we have to be a little bit more tight, and EF will support any safety precautions and procedures that we put in place as well. All right, so let's get into our itinerary. This is what we're going to see, do, eat, and experience on the tour. While I'm doing that, let me just put in the sign-in form one more time in case anybody missed that there to click on the link. So what are we excited? What am I excited about the tour? The beautiful views in Costa Rica, the pace of life, and the animals are so incredible. There's really just nothing like watching monkeys climb through the trees, or sloths, groggily looking up and looking around when somebody whistles at them. It's just a really special experience that I'm really excited for. But we're doing a lot of really cool things on the tour as well, so let's check them out. There we go. So our tour is 8 days in Costa Rica, with 2 nights in the capital, San Jose, a day in Sarchi, 2 nights in Monteverde, 1 night in the Arenal region, and 2 nights in Sarapiquí. Here's what our tour will kind of look like on the day-to-day. There are no direct flights from Seattle to Costa Rica. No matter which way you look at it, it's about 8 hours of flying to get there. Let's look at a map real quick so everyone knows, just in case you're wondering where Costa Rica is. So here we are out here in Snoqualmie, Washington, and let's zoom out and keep zooming out and keep zooming out a little bit more. There we go. So there's the United States. Costa Rica is way down here in Central America, the second most southern country in Central America. So we'll be flying into San Jose, and we'll be flying out of San Jose as well. We'll drive over to Monteverde, up to the Arenal region, and then across to Puerto Viejo de Sarapiquí. We'll stop in the Balio Carrillo National Park on the way back and finish up in San Jose. So there's a few different paths we can get to Costa Rica with, but no matter what, it's about 8 hours, either 3 hours to Los Angeles, 5 hours to Costa Rica, 3 hours to Denver, 5 hours to Costa Rica, 4 hours to Houston, 4 hours to Costa Rica, or through Florida, 5 and 3. So that's usually our options for the flights. So it usually takes about a day of transit to get down there and a day to get back. Once we're there, we'll kind of hit the ground running. We'll have one night at a hotel in the city, and then it's next morning real early up and going. We're going to take a tour of a coffee plantation. Costa Rica has some of the best coffee in the world. I can't really speak to it as I don't drink coffee, but my wife really likes coffee and she thinks it's the best in the world. So I'll take her recommendation on that. Once we're done with the coffee plantation, we'll head over to Monteverde, which is a huge cloud forest. It's one of the most biologically diverse areas in the entire world, not just Costa Rica, but the entire world. I've never been to this forest, so I'm really, really excited to go. And while we're there, we're going to visit a working mill and enjoy a local food workshop. We're going to participate in a cultural exchange with the locals, visit the Santa Elena Cloud Forest, and enjoy a hike in the Arenal Volcano National Park. Arenal Volcano is this huge, cone volcano. Imagine Mount Fuji in Japan, looks exactly like it. Whenever the clouds, hopefully while we're there, the clouds break and you get that full image of the perfectly conical volcano. It's really, really cool to see, and we'll be kind of right around it for a few days. It'll kind of be out in the background, and then we get to hike right next to it. It's pretty cool. On the second half of the trip, we're going to visit a pineapple farm. We'll visit the, I can never pronounce this word, sorry, Tirimbina Biological Reserve to take a chocolate tour. We'll visit Balio Carrillo National Park and ride the aerial train in the park. And then we'll head back to San Jose, explore the city on our last night there, and then take off for home on day 8. One thing that's not on here that I'm going to try to put into the tour, because it's one of our favorite activities to do, is whitewater rafting. So we'll try to get that, and also some zip lining onto the tour as well. So when we're in the cloud forest, we can expect to see all sorts of animals, including sloths and monkeys, which I'm really excited about. We also saw a pygmy anteater, I think. Was that right, Trisha? Was that a pygmy ant? I can't remember what that was that we saw by Arenal. That was really, really cute. But yeah, the animals there are crazy. This will be my 11th trip, I think, to Costa Rica. And in the time there, I've gotten to see pretty much every animal that has to offer, including the jaguar. It's a really, really biodiverse country. There's more species that live in Costa Rica in terms of every, per the size than anywhere else on Earth. So it's the most biodiverse country in the world. So we'll see all sorts of different plants and animals as well. And then here's the volcano. It usually has that cloud top, but we'll be driving around, the bus will see the clouds break, and those, wherever we are, pull over, everybody piles out and takes pictures of it. It's super gorgeous. And of course, don't forget about the food. Costa Rica is really famous for its chocolate and its coffee, both of which we'll visit plantations for, as well as pineapple. But a little less known about Costa Rica is their barbecue is really, really delicious. Their plate lunch kind of style meals are really good. They have delicious fresh seafood and ceviche, and a really cool street kind of food culture of empanadas and different street meats that we can try. So our travel dates, block off your calendars from the earliest departure to the latest return. So this is kind of like the window we could travel in. They usually give us, a day or two on each end. I've never had the issue though, where it hasn't fit right on spring break before. So either we leave the Friday evening or night when spring break starts, or Saturday, and then we get back on the Saturday or Sunday before spring break ends. By giving them a little bit of flexibility in our tour, it just allows us to get better flights, better hotels, all of those kind of things, make it a smoother trip over. If we don't, one other thing, if we don't have a full bus to go with just SMS students, we would then get matched up with another school around the country who's doing a similar tour to us. It's really a cool experience to get to meet other students from around the country and learn about why they're traveling and get to learn about them. I've traveled with groups from New York, Pennsylvania, Arkansas, Ohio, Iowa before, and it's really cool to, kind of get to meet those kids and see what they're like from other places in America. So what's included in the itinerary? Round trip airfare on major airline carriers, international travel. We'll get there eventually. You have to be flexible on these types of trips, but we'll get round trip airfare, hotel stays at quality clean accommodations. 3 meals a day are included into the tour: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We'll have the tour director who will be with us 24/7, taking care of all of our hotel check-ins, all of our scheduling, making sure where we need to be where we are. We'll have a coach bus while we're traveling, a really comfortable, air-conditioned bus the whole time with a bus driver that stays with the bus, and our belongings can stay on that the whole time, which is really nice. Everywhere we go, we'll have different expert local guides that provide us cultural insight into the location. Guided sightseeing of all our destination has to offer, and then any entrances to landmarks, attractions, national parks, all of those things are taken care of. What we're not included in the tour is your passport fees. You will need a passport to travel to Costa Rica. If you want to check baggage, you'd have to cover any baggage fees. We do tip our local guides, bus drivers, and tour directors. And then if you want money for, snacks, drinks, those kind of things, souvenirs, you'd have to cover that. So real quick, here's just a little kind of video giving a parent perspective of the tour and why they sent their students on the tour. Let me pull it up here. Oops, where'd it go? I lost it. There it is. All right, no, it's not it. There it is.
Hey, come take a look at this.
There it is. Okay, sorry about that.
Brian, can you see me?
You can't see you now.
It says, okay, there I go.
Oh, there you are.
I don't know what I did, but I did something. I think that the EF tours helps kids be willing to try new things and do new things and be more accepting and willing to explore new cultures and new people, because I can see her blooming. I can see her little bud and her bloom getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
As parents, it's like you're writing checks for all these things that you do: soccer cleats, show choir, whatever it is that you're doing. This, to me, when I look back now that my kids are in college, is the best thing we did for our kids.
The kids are really very much experiencing things that we as a family could not create on our own in some cases, because we just don't have that kind of access.
It's certainly worth it. And I mean, the price is real. That's what it costs to get to Europe, get to South Africa, get around the world, to eat and have bus transportation and to do things. So of course it's going to cost.
But then you think about it, well, we're paying this over the course of many, many months. Yeah, we can handle this.
The payment plans were awesome because it made it affordable. It made it reasonable.
Paying on the trip at the beginning really was almost like I didn't even see it and feel it, and I appreciated that.
It was just so easy to decide the payment options,
to have the capability of having friends and family, help fund the trip.
Empowers us to be able to give our child an experience that we know that will help them become a more rounded person, a more complete person.
I wanted her to practice those skills that I hope that I taught her in independence and being self-sufficient and making decisions for herself.
It's feet on the ground learning the whole time you're there. You're learning about food, culture. You're learning simple things like how to navigate an airport, how to deal with people who are grumpy, how to take care of yourself, find yourself a snack.
Set their own alarm, wake up, get dressed, pack their bags, and be ready to be out by a certain time.
Money exchanges and how to deal with money and how to flush the toilet in Venice, or what to expect before you get off the bus. And those are the things that middle school, high school kids need to know right away.
The ability to go and experience things is great growth. It's an investment for life.
If you're a homeowner in Washington.
All right. So just a little parent perspective of the changes that they saw and also how we can make it possible. One person, our last trip, I almost kind of stopped having these trips. I wasn't really, didn't get a lot of interest in one of our trips, and one of our students who's actually here, Aspen, kind of kept bugging me. She was like sending me emails, hey, what about Costa Rica? Are you planning the Costa Rica trip? And she really got me to realize, like, oh wow, students actually care about this, and this is an important thing, and how can I make this happen? So we ended up having that trip, and we filled 2 buses and had 64 people go down to Costa Rica, which was a crazy whirlwind of a time. We're going to do it a little bit smaller this time. But Aspen, if you wouldn't mind, just what did you enjoy about the trip to Costa Rica last year, and why did you want to go?
Okay, so I was an 8th grader when I went, and I'm an 9th grader now. The trip was amazing. I was so nice to get to know the tour guides. The Costa Rican people were so nice. It was super nice to leave our stuff like locked up on the bus when we were like going on activities. Probably the best part of the trip was like being able to learn and have fun at the same time. Like we were constantly learning, but we were constantly having fun too.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Our tour directors were so great last time. I still text with Jorge all the time, and we're actually going to Monteverde, where he's from, so I'm hoping we can hook up with him while we're there and get to say hi. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, thanks so much for sharing. So yeah, the tours are really fun. They're filled with education as well as adventure. That's really important to me. We kind of tie it in. For our 7th grade curriculum, at least, I know a lot of your students are 7th graders that are here right now. Our 7th grade curriculum, in the spring, we talk about ecosystems and the pressures on ecosystems that humans put, which I think is a really great thing that we highlight when we visit Costa Rica and we see these ecosystems and we see how fragile they are, as well as watching a country who has environmentalism at their forefront and how they're doing it compared to a lot of the other countries out there. Costa Rica is an absolute model for their environmentalism, and what they can teach us is pretty awesome. Also, the geology in Costa Rica is really cool. I kind of nerd out over it a little bit while I'm there. There's 7 active volcanoes in Costa Rica, and like another 50 or 60 dormant ones, which is really cool to see this area shaped, continually being shaped by so much volcanic activity. And Arenal, which will be by, just stopped erupting about 10 years ago. It used to erupt every night. And there's a couple other volcanoes that are currently erupting right now, which we won't get too close to, don't worry. But it's really cool to kind of be there and see that all happening. All right, let's move on. So a little bit more about EF as being our education partner. They have a personalized learning guide that you can use that kind of supplements the trip that goes along with it. You can also apply to get high school or college credit. The 0.5 high school credits are included with the trip. And if you wanted to go for 3 college credits, which I know is kind of a little bit too much for our students, but it is there for available if you wanted to do that. And also they have a college essay toolkit that you can use in a few years when you're applying to colleges and use your experience on the trip to help you kind of gain that extra edge. And one big thing that EF focuses on, and I do too, about bringing students home change. Always having that growth mindset to embrace new challenges, whether it be a spider in your bedroom, which happens, not having hot water at a hotel, which happens, being able to deal with that, flights being changed, delays, layovers, food taking a little bit longer to come, all those kind of things that we might not get to that challenge on a daily life. It's nice to have those and really gives us that growth mindset. Also, like I talked about before, the global perspective of getting us out of the valley and into these other cultures to see how they work and what we can learn from them. And the personal development that comes along that way. I think travel makes us all better people. And then also the action and impact. Some of you might know, like, a big focus in our 7th grade science is plastics and how they affect the ocean ecosystem as well as coastal communities. Costa Rica has 2 coastlines, Pacific and Caribbean, and have been dealing with the plastic problem quite a bit. So we'll kind of learn a little bit about how they've been dealing with it in Costa Rica and their unique challenges that they have as well. But by learning about it, seeing those problems there, it gives you, it empowers students to gain those necessary skills to make an impact. So EF, there's a few different people I work with behind the scenes to make these trips work. We have our tour consultant. Her name's Taylor Frame. She's been working with me for about 5 years now to help plan these trips. She's a really, really great support, helps us on the ground when we need anything at all, which has been great. We have the tour director that stays with our bus on the trip 24/7 while we're there, stays at the hotels with us, eats at the restaurants with us, all those kind of things, and kind of leads us through the tour. We have our traveler support team back at home that is dealing with any problems or is like kind of live following along with our trip and making sure everything goes smoothly. And then there's the group leader. That's me. I'm kind of your in-between for making the tour this magical experience for you, as well as making it as easy as we can for our tour director to get things done. Also, you can kind of book with confidence when we do get to that part. The Peace of Mind program kind of goes that, hey, there's a natural disaster, a hurricane in April for some reason is hitting Costa Rica, right? We can't go. They'll work with us to find a new location or to like move our trip back to the summer to make it work for all of us to go onto it. They also have global travel protection that's included. This is basically like basic traveler's insurance for if we have any trip cancellation or interruptions, baggage or property loss, anything like that, it's all included. For a small fee, you can also buy like the higher level travel protection, which allows you to cancel for any reason up to 24 hours prior to the departure. And what's really nice is that if you sign up in the next few days, you get 2 weeks to kind of be like, maybe I made a rash decision and this isn't for us. And you would get 100% total refund from that in those 14 days. So a few little protections there for you in planning the trip. So making it happen. There is scholarship available through EF Tour. They award $100,000 in scholarships each year, which you can apply for. The deadline to apply for that's coming up in a couple of weeks, though. So please let me know, and I can send you the information for that. But one thing EF Tours also does is it makes a personalized like GoFundMe style page for you that you can send out to friends and families to help crowdsource some of the costs of the tour. and students can, use that to put money towards their tour, so they feel like they have a contribution to it, which I think is really, really important, that each student that comes on the tour feels some sort of contribution towards the tour, so that they have that ownership, and that experience means so much more to them. And what's so nice about their tour funding page, besides GoFundMe, is that they don't take a cut. So they're not making money off it. It's just to help you out. All right. And once again, everything we get, the itinerary and logistics, everything we talked about getting on the tour, the payments and protections, the safety and support team that EF has in place, as well as that personalized learning if you're looking for high school or even college credit from the tour. So how can we make it happen? I want to say before we started this that I really tried my best to make the trip as affordable as possible. When I was in 7th grade, I got the experience, ability to go to Washington, D.C. with my school. And my parents, we didn't have a lot of money. And me and my brother worked weekends for like 8 months straight at Borachini's Bakery, back when it was still open, to help kind of pay for this tour. And so when I was choosing tours to go on this year, cost was really forward in my head, and I wanted to make it cheaper than the other tours we have to offer to Boston or Washington, D.C. as well. I think different students kind of want different things from these travel experiences. And for me, I would have really, really loved this experience to go see something so different from America that Costa Rica is. And luckily, Costa Rica is one of the easiest countries to travel to from America. And once we get there, it's pretty affordable. So I just want to let you know, like, that the cost of the trip is cheaper than most other travel opportunities for students, as well as the tour this year, I think, is the same price as our tour from last year, which with 10% inflation, that's pretty good. So by locking it in this early, we were able to get that cheaper deal that's not as much affected by the inflation problems going on. So anyways, looking at that, we have 16 months, I think, until the tour, 17 months until the tour. If you wanted to pay every 2 weeks, it would be $100 every 2 weeks. But I think the more common option is the monthly payment plan. It's $200 a month for a student to go on the tour. And that's kind of it, which I think is a pretty manageable amount compared to some of the other trips. And having it this early really helps that out. The trip in full is $3,300, but if you sign up in the next 3 days, you get $200 off that total. So it'd be $3,100 for the trip, which is, once again, airfare, hotels, the bus, all of our tour guides, all of our entries to national parks and activities. I mean, everything's included, besides tips. Right? You really could do this for this price plus the $80 or so in tips that it is, and not have anything else on the tour, and it would work out for you. So adults are also allowed to travel with their kids. I know some schools with the high school trips, especially, they don't have parents come. I think at a middle school level, it's great to have parents that come and share in this experience with their kids. So while I do try to limit the amount of parents that are on the tour, I've never really kind of had problems filling it up with that much. So any parent that did want to come, you could come. There's an extra $500 surcharge on it for parents because you're in double rooms instead of triple and quad rooms. Some of your entry fees are a little bit more expensive. Some of they expect you're going to eat more food, those kind of things. But parents are absolutely allowed on the tour with their kids. Would love to have you sharing that experience. I think that joint growth experience is also a really special thing. Usually I have about half and half of my students that travel with a parent or don't. So, but that option is there for you if that would be kind of a requirement to send them international, which I totally understand. Oh yeah, so November 6th is that $200 discount if you enroll by then. You can also do like a manual payment option where you pay like a little bit now, pay a little bit later, pay a little bit now, and kind of change it up. Totally up to you. There's like a little extra fee that comes along with that. I just recommend the monthly payments as it makes it so you don't kind of wait, and then towards the end it's a lot more all at once. All right, so it's kind of time to enroll or kind of questions time. I guess if you have any questions, you can roll those in the chat. I know they always put like a low number of guaranteed spots up here. Really, this is our first meeting of the year, or the first meeting kind of advertising this trip and recruiting for this trip. My goal as an overall for this trip is about 40 travelers or so. That fills us up one bus. We're all together. It's easy to get into the same hotels. And I think it's a really good size group. So really there's about, minus the chaperone spots, there's about 33 spots on the tour, or so 34 spots on the tour that are available. But if you do sign up earlier, you get that $200 discount, which is nice. And you don't have to worry about, maybe it does fill up. And how you can sign up is right here on this QR code, or you can use the link. I'll type that link in the chat so that you have it. And can see the tour website, which has basically all the information that we covered here, kind of written out for you. All right, let me check to make sure I wrote that right. All right, there we go. So there's a link right there in the chat that you could click on to see our enrollment page and how it works. And then once again, I'll put the link to that sign-in form that has a kind of follow-up questions on it if you have anything. But that's kind of it for my spiel. I really want to thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. When I came down with COVID on Monday, I was getting a little worried, but I was able to kind of make it through and have the meeting, which I'm really glad we were able to kind of help with that $200 discount and getting in before the deadline for that. If you have any questions at all, feel free to type them in the chat, or if you just want to hang out and unmute yourself, you're more than welcome to too. I've kind of set aside another 15-20 minutes to answer questions. So anything at all that could help you make a decision about the tour, feel free to ask. I'll also send out a follow-up email with a link to this video recording, as well as maybe there's some commonly asked questions. I'll send that out. I guess some things normal questions that people haven't asked yet that I could address. We're able to accommodate pretty much any sort of food or dietary restriction at all. We've had vegans, vegetarians, pescatarians, and omnivores on the trip before, and all have been able to enjoy it. We don't allow students to, walk off on their own into a foreign city. So don't worry about that. We always have like that 4-to-1, like I said. I like to have, no more than 4 kids to 1 adult at all times while on the tour. And I think that covers about everything. If I haven't mentioned it enough before, though, Costa Rica is incredible. It is such a magical and special place. I'd really love to share it with your children or with you on these tours, and it just really makes me happy to share it with other people. So I hope that kind of plea helps out a little bit. Like, trust me when I say it's an incredible place that is just magical to me, and I can't wait to share it with some of y'all. So anyways, if you don't have any questions, thanks so much for coming. I'll follow up. I'll send out, the slideshow and the recording of the video presentation. If you do have any questions, throw them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself at this time and ask them. But thanks a lot. And as a, common Costa Rica saying to share with all of you, pura vida, which means pure life. It's a kind of a greeting, and it's kind of like aloha in Hawaiian, but pura vida, pure life. And that's the life that they strive to live in Costa Rica, where every moment of life should be the purest possible, which I think is such a cool mindset to have. So thanks so much, Trisha. It wasn't too bad at first, but the last couple of days have been a little bit rougher. So
can I just say something really quick?
Oh, sure. Absolutely, Trisha. Yeah, definitely.
If you guys haven't been to Costa Rica, it is like hands down the most amazing place I've ever been. It's incredible. And just when you started talking about doing the whitewater rafting in Sarapiqui, I really cannot explain the experience of going down a river, rapids, and seeing toucans flying by. I mean, it was hands down amazing. The people there are absolutely genuine. The guides that you get matched up that are with you on the bus are incredible. I actually cried when we had to say goodbye. It's just, I can't say enough good stuff about it. And I wasn't willing to spend the money for my daughter, so she raised money for her trip by mowing lawns. So there's always little tips of babysitting or mowing lawns or ways to get your kids to help, because then they appreciate it more. So you got to go to Costa Rica.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Trisha. Yeah, one thing I guess I haven't talked about, the people in Costa Rica are so incredibly nice and fun, and just want to share their world with us so much, which is just a great takeaway. And I think the best tour guide I've had on any tour anywhere in the world was at the chocolate tour that we were going back to. When he started talking about what it meant to be an American, and how Costa Ricans are, American to Central Americans. And we have this brotherhood between our two continents that we so rarely kind of examine closely, just how closely related we are to them. And it was really powerful thing. I've learned so much from Costa Ricans, and especially on this tour, and how they talk to our kids and how they treat us, that keeps making me want to go back. And it's so hard when I'm planning a trip and I'm looking at all these different places in the world, and I keep going back to Costa Rica because just of how special it is. So thanks so much for sharing about that, Trisha. Awesome. So anybody else have a question, comment, concern, anything like that I can help address? Thumbs up. I don't know if that means we're good or you have a question.
Sorry.
Oh, sure. Oh, thank you. What's up, Kendall?
Oh, I was curious about if a parent does join along, if those 34 spots maybe are for the kiddos, and maybe the parents don't necessarily join you on the tours and things like that.
Like I said, I've never really had the problem where too many parents join on. Like, we're required to have an adult to student ratio of 6:1. So if parents don't come, I need to supplement that ratio somehow and bring other teachers, or like my wife would come on the tour, something like that, to get that ratio there. So I'm required to have a 6:1 ratio of students to adults. Honestly, having a few parents come actually helps us gain spots to have more students. Because if we have more students that want to come from that above that ratio, then we kind of get stuck in a little bit. So it doesn't hurt us at all to have parents come. I think with this size of group and the sizes of groups that I've had in the past, I think this is going to be the perfect size that everybody who wants to go will be able to come on the tour. I don't really expect us to fill up all that quick this time around, but if we do, that's great. And we can look towards future years or tours at other times too, if we have kind of an overflow of students. The tour is 8 days. The tour is eight days long. Last year's tour was 9 days, and it was a little bit tight on both sides of spring break. So going down to that 8 days, I think will give us a little bit more flexibility with our flying in and out. Anella, what's up?
Hi. So I was just curious, when it gets closer to the trip, do you send out, since you guys you had mentioned that there is an additional fee if you check a bag. So since it is a small amount, it sounds like for packing, if you have like a recommended packing list that you send out to kind of make sure that you're covered for all of these activities?
Yeah, great question. So EF Tour sends us backpacks. So every person on the tour gets an EF Tour backpack. For parents, it's totally optional if you bring it or not. But for students, we like to have them bring that EF backpack with them. It fits a good amount of stuff, which you can bring just that backpack and make it work. I only bring a carry-on usually. This past year, we went and visited the animal rescue center that I worked at, and we gathered a lot of supplies for them to deliver for donations. So I brought a couple of check bags. It just slows everything down. My ultimate goal is always to have everybody on the tour just carry on and, have one carry-on suitcase and the EF Tour's backpack and try to fit everything inside of that. Traveling light is super huge on these tours. Anytime, any big suitcase you have, you're carrying it, right? I'm not carrying the student's luggage around. If a 12-year-old that weighs 80 pounds brings 50 pounds of luggage, they're carrying around that 50 pounds of luggage to and from the bus, up and down from the hotel room and stuff. So I just can't carry 30 kids worth of luggage. So I recommend carrying on to the best of their ability. But if you do want that extra space and want to check a bag so you have room for souvenirs or room, like you don't have to feel crunched or cramped with all your stuff, then you would have to cover the bag fee for the airlines, which is usually $30 to $50 or so. I do send out, when I give out the backpacks a couple weeks before the tour, I put inside of it a packing list, like a checklist, so you can make sure you have everything that you need. And we try to do it as simple as possible. One shirt for every day, a pair of shorts for every 2 days, or leggings. Make sure you have enough underwear, toothbrush, phone charger. We keep it pretty simple. Everything's kind of taken care of it for us. And I think it's a good learning experience for some students too with the packing, because one year we had a kid who really did not bring enough clothes, and for the last 4 days of the trip they were wearing the same shirt and shorts, and I think they learned a lesson there on that one and won't make that mistake in the future. But for 8 days, and we think that's okay, that's really like 6 full days in Costa Rica, we can usually make that work into just a carry-on. Really just pair of flip-flops, pair of shoes, underwear, pants, shirts, hat. That's kind of all we need. So it's kind of really up to you, but we can make it work with just a check-on, or with just a carry-on, sorry. But thanks for the question. Anybody else, or any wonderings, concerns?
So I had one other small.
Oh, of course.
So you said they speak Spanish there. Is there any other different dialect? Like if we wanted to try and have like Roderick try and prepare before going?
Great question. So Costa Rica has Spanish is their official language. Everyone in the country, 100% of the country speaks Spanish. About 15, 20 years ago, maybe even actually longer now, about 30 years ago, they introduced mandatory English in all of their schools. So anybody under the age of, I think, about 35 in Costa Rica took many years of English at school. And that's pretty much the entire tourism industry speaks English. I always practice a lot of Spanish before I go down and end up using none of it, besides like ordering food at restaurants, which in general, they speak English anyways, but it's just kind of a fun thing to do, to order in Spanish. In the Caribbean areas of Costa Rica, which we're not headed to this time, they do have a more like Creole Spanish mix that they speak, but it's not super widely spoken across the country. And there are a few native languages that local indigenous tribes speak, but they're not widely spoken. So Spanish, definitely number one. Our tour guide will teach us like a little bit of slang that they use in Costa Rica for their version of Spanish, but it's kind of melding into a Spanglish style that they speak there. One really, really tough thing about speaking Spanish in Costa Rica is, especially when we're in the mountain communities, they drop their S's off of the ends of words. So instead of saying dos más, asking if you wanted two more, they would say doma, which can be really hard for a new Spanish speaker to learn. So that's kind of like their local dialect, is just dropping the S's off the end of words. But other than that, it's actually pretty clean Spanish. Not as understandable, I think, as Peruvian Spanish, but one of the more understandable Spanishes dialects that there are. Like I can't understand anything that someone from Mexico says, to be honest. But in Costa Rica, it can catch 20-30%. So I hope that answered your question there. All right. Anything else? Well, awesome. So if there's no more questions, you can feel free to log off. I'll send a follow-up email either tonight if I can manage it, or more likely tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for coming, and Pura Vida. I hope to get to share in this experience with your family soon. Thank you.